Tell me a little bit about your history with Seattle. For people that may not know much about you from here, what areas were you from? What was your life like here growing up in Seattle?
So I was born in the Lynnwood area, and then my father had an office in downtown Seattle. I used to go to church on Beacon Hill. I went to Edmonds Woodway High School. I would go to the Shoreline rec all the time and practice b-boying with my crew, and then we would enter jams anywhere from Marysville to Tacoma to Seattle, and I grew up in the north in Edmonds, but I went to I remember I got my haircut at like B&I Mall once a month in Tacoma, so I went around quite a lot. So I'm very deeply rooted in Seattle, and that's where I'm from. That's where I still rep till this day. Ever since I first came to Korea, obviously I'm Korean, but that's where I was born. That's where I found a lot of who I am, right?
How would you describe your journey, in the industry, from debut to today? How would you describe that?
It's definitely an interesting ride. It's not something that I expected, and it's not the typical, I would say, story that you hear in Korea. I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful, very blessed that I could experience so many things and kind of do things my way and keep it true to myself, but also have a lot of people relate to me, even though I'm from a different background and I do things differently. I think a lot of people, they see me and they see themselves as where they see like the underdog kind of make it, and it gives them hope and inspiration and motivation. It's been. I'm sure you looked me up before. You interviewed me, so I'm sure you've seen all the ups and downs and different things that I've achieved and that I've been through, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's definitely been an interesting ride.
One of those questions I have always had, if I got the chance to interview you, was, do you think being an American in the Korean rap scene has given you like an edge over other artists, born in Korea?
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, where it's like, obviously, hip hop is from, America, right? So it gives me a more better understanding, and it gives me a little bit more, I guess, authenticity to a certain extent. But also it puts me at a disadvantage because I didn't always speak Korean very well, right? And so over here, even though what they took the art form and the genre and are very heavily influenced by the States, still it has its own uniqueness and its own scene and its own flavor here. And it took me a long time for me to soak that in and to kind of bring the best of both worlds together. And then another thing is when I got signed to Rock Nation, again, it's like one of those things where it's a double-edged sword. It's like, okay, I'm the first Asian American to sign to Rock Nation, but since there isn't a blueprint, there's nothing to follow. So it's kind of like, no one. It's harder for people to kind of accept something that's very unfamiliar, and so it's kind of like up to me to kind of pave that way. And so yeah, it's a great opportunity, and I'm very thankful. But also, it's kind of like an uphill battle at the same time.
Do you think that creates like any pressure for you as an American in the industry to kind of like show what it should be like, to try to set that tone for America in the Korean rap game?
If you want to be loved and if you want to be accepted by the whichever scene you're going into, you really have to put in work. You have to lay the groundwork. You have to do your due diligence. You really have to try to understand and soak in the culture, and then also once you get the love, give back as well. So I think that's very important to be a part of that community. You need to put in the work, and so not just as an American going into the Korean rap scene, but just if you want to go into any scene and you want to get yourself out there and be accepted and be acknowledged and be respected, I think you definitely have to put in the work, and you definitely have to acknowledge the people that have made this scene, you know.
The One You Wanted, it's out now. Can you tell me about why you chose that title for this album?
The R&B album I released in 2016, it's called Everything You Wanted. And in terms of just, you know, accolades and numbers and fan reaction, it got a lot of love, support, acknowledgement. It received awards. And so I was planning on releasing the second R&B album for a very long time, for about 7 years now. And then a lot of stuff just kept on coming up. You know, I resigned as CEO from AMG Higher Music. I started a new entity, More Vision. I started One Soju. I released a lot of other different projects that I had in the works. And so it kept on getting pushed back. And so, yeah, I just wanted to kind of let the fans know, okay, this will be reminiscent of this energy that you saw in 2016, Everything You Wanted. And it's the one that you guys have been waiting for, the one you wanted. So,
how did you decide on the track list? Because, you know, 20 tracks, a couple of previously released tracks, but how did you decide on that track list?
Obviously, I'm very sincere and authentic and hardworking when it comes to my music, but I don't go so deep into it where I'm a perfectionist, right? So I like to be more, just kind of go with the flow, have more natural, be more fun with it. And so I just hit up the studio, and then, you know, just make music. I make music, and then I have a lot of songs and a lot of demos, and then I take those and see which ones I want to finish, right? Because, you know, and then I kind of start getting the concept for the album and the feel for the album, the mood for the album. Okay, if I put all these tracks together, I think it will be cohesive. And so there's a lot of tracks that I had been working on that didn't make the album. And for the track listing, I want to start off where it's kind of sets the tone, like what kind of album it'll be. Okay, expect this to be R&B basically. And so that's why the first track is just very R&B. It's more a vibe, a mood, and that's what I want. Is like, I want people to just feel something, whether it be they want to dance, or whether it be they can relate to the lyrics, be sad, be happy, whatever it may be. I don't want it just to be a TikTok challenge. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know, it starts off like that, and then you get into the more songs that will kind of captivate people's attention and capture their attention. And then in the middle, it's kind of like more just, okay, let's relax. And then it at the end, it kind of ends off very. It leaves you wanting more, right? It leaves you thinking, basically. And it's kind of like, oh, it's done, and it kind of leaves like an everlasting emotion, I guess. And so that's kind of what I experience. Even though people don't listen to full body projects anymore, for me, just as an artist and for my legacy, I felt like it was very important for me to keep on releasing full projects, and then also for the people that do care, right? Leave them with an experience.
I listened to it from top to bottom. You have so many different styles on this album, and so like that's why I was so curious to know how you decided on it, because there's something for everybody.
And also, even though it is a artist, or even though it is an album coming out of Korea, you know, there's half the tracks are in English. So, you know, like you said, it is more just for, like, you know, just the fans and music listeners and people who that they could love K-pop, but they could also just love, you know, pop music, and then they could also understand it because it's in English. So yeah, like you said, that's kind of, I kind of take pride in reaching a broad audience.
And I want to talk about a little other Seattle connection with Cha Malone. You two are friends. He's from here as well. He and I follow each other. But how did you guys become close? And what is it about, you know, his work that he's a lot on this album. He's a lot in your career. So tell me about working with him and what it is you like about his music.
So me and Cha, we've known each other since high school, because we were both in the breaking scene, the b-boy scene, and then also we were in the same crew. And when we were younger, we weren't that close. We just knew each other, say what's up through mutual friends. And then I noticed that he did music, and he was very heavily into producing and music. And so when I went solo, it just kind of seemed natural for me to reach out and be like, yo, let's work on something together. We both do music. We're in the same crew. And then ever since then, it's kind of been, history. It's like, okay, I feel like it's because since we grew up in the same city, since we kind of we're the same age, so we have a lot of the same influences. And so it's like our tastes are very similar. And so we work very, very well together. Obviously, before, when I was working with Chaa, he was more unknown, so a lot of people were like, yo, like, why are you working with this guy? But it's kind of like, it was like our job to prove like why we're good together. And I think we've done that, continuously, because we have platinum hits, we have songs on Spotify with like 100 million streams, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and it's great to work with a friend that I've known for so long, that I could trust, and we continue to progress and grow together. So, yeah, and it's great. And for me, like, since I started my music career in Korea, it was very important for me to kind of come back to Seattle and to connect with the scene and the artists there, whether it be, like Jarv or Lil Mosey or 28 Ave or Cha or Faye Reds, or, all the people that have put in the work, Travis Thompson. There's a kid from my high school, actually, his name is Charlie on a Friday, who's just killing it right now. So yeah, there's a lot of dope things going on in Seattle, and it was very important for me to kind of come back and to connect with the city after, I have this platform and this influence.
Yeah, and I want to talk about your features. A lot of features. Every single one I'm obsessed with, and I need you to work with Ning Ning again, please. Your voices together was so good, but I wanted to know, how do you decide on these features? Do they start out as features? Do you add them later? And then how do you decide on the artist that you bring in for it?
So there's specific, like, let's say Kanadara, right? So I made that because IU was interested in working with me, and so I made that song specifically thinking about you, just to get the feature, right? Because I'm like, oh, okay, IU was interested in working with me, I got to take that opportunity. As for the other songs, I would just make songs that that I feel like I just want to make in the studio, and then later on, oh, I think someone so and so would sound good on this, or so and so would sound good on this, and then so I'll have, or we'll do like a meeting together, like with my team at More Vision and with TA, Transparent Arts. We'd be like, yo, like, who do you think will sound good on this? And then someone will throw out a name. It's like, oh, I know someone from here. Yo, I know someone from Ty Dolla $ign's camp. Oh, okay, cool, let's do it. That sounds awesome. And so yeah, we will add them on later, reach out to the camp, and then if all the obviously there's a lot of complicated things that go into getting a feature, but yeah, if it all works out, the artist likes the song, then we figure out the business stuff, then it all works out. And for me, when I think of a feature, I always want it to make sense, first of all. Like, I don't ever want it to sound like sonically kind of off. I always want the synergy to be there, and for them to add something to the song, and also for the song to do something for them as well.
When you have such a great album, do you have a favorite song on this album?
In terms of favorite song, I feel like the song that best represents me and my taste is Mayday. I think just from being from Seattle, being from the West Coast, being very heavily influenced by LA, the Bay, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just good vibes, right? It's just good vibes. But yeah, I mean, for me, before, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have more time to work on music. So I think I took advantage of the freedom to just kind of work on music when I want, and just to make an album. Because I would put out an album every year. As where now it's like, and I'm very thankful, because at this stage in my career, I've been around for a long time. I'm definitely not a new face. So to continue to be in demand and be booked, I'm very, very thankful, very grateful. But also, it's like, everything is very time consuming. I have a lot of obligations, so I don't have the luxury and the freedom to work on music whenever I want. So like, this album coming out for me, and also for the new entity More Vision, is like a big thing. And so like, just the album in general I'm very proud of, and I feel like the people that I represent, whether it be my friends or Seattle or my More Vision, or just the people that support me, I feel like they're proud to represent me in this album as well. So to me, that's like the biggest thing. And then I think for the favorite track, or the track that best represents me, is definitely Mayday.
How many unreleased tracks would you say you have?
Ooh, I mean, I just released 20, so I think maybe like 10 or 15 more. But I don't know if I'll ever even release them, right? So I think I definitely want to work on a rap project after this one, and then maybe a more kind of a global project, and then maybe go on tour after that.
Do you think we'll ever get like another like The Purge?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that's the beauty of AMG Higher Music. It's like, even though everyone's doing their own thing, and they've kind of moved on to the next chapter of their career, it's like we're all still cool. We're all still a crew. We all still made history together. So yeah, I think when the timing is right, we'll all feel it. We'll all feel it and be like, yo, okay, we need to do one of these. And I think that moment will be very special for the music industry, and just for like the people that because in a few years from now, that'll be kind of like nostalgia, So yeah, I think when the time comes, that's definitely a very, very open possibility.
Like you said earlier, you've been in this industry for a long time, but and you've seen kind of almost like the beginning stages of when K-pop was becoming this massive thing to now. What are some of those biggest changes you have seen in the industry that stick out to you the most?
Definitely, just being global, becoming global, and getting the recognition of all different types of people in all different types of countries. It's like the one of the biggest genres right now, as where before it's very, very niche, right? Very, very niche. There wasn't a lot of people that knew it outside of Asian Americans or Asian people, or just people that were a small amount of people that were just very into it. Right now, it's like it's a household mainstream thing. That's the biggest thing, and with that type of notoriety and that type of acknowledgement comes a lot of different big conglomerates that want to pump a lot of money in. And so when a lot of money gets pumped to it, then the game changes, right? The whole business structure, the whole system of it. And so, yeah, there's a lot of good things that happen, but also it's like when everyone's trying to get their hand on something, and then when it becomes too prevalent, then it kind of becomes oversaturated. So then now it's like, it's up to me to kind of, how do we dive into this business, but also keep our identity, right? And that's kind of like what I take a lot of pride in, is keeping that balance. I always try to stay true to myself, but I always want to be in the eyes of the people, right, and the listeners, right? So yeah, it's fun, but it's very strenuous.
Artist, CEO, label founder, soju brand, you're doing it all more than anybody else I could think of at the moment. How do you manage to do all of that without getting burnt out?
It's definitely very strenuous, exhausting, but I feel like I try to continue to find motivation and inspiration, so I don't get burnt out to the point where I have a breakdown, right? Even though I'm tired and exhausted, I always find a way to keep going. And so I think that's just me trying to stay grounded and be thankful for the simple things, whether it be health or good people around you, or food in my stomach, house over my head, nature, and just another day of life. Definitely those type of things. And also, I think the accountability and the responsibility I have, because I have a lot of people that look up to me, or that find hope in me or motivation in me, or that depend on me to be in this position and kind of take accountability for their livelihood, right? And so yeah, those type of things, it definitely gives me the strength and the courage to keep on going on.
Did you set any goals for this album ahead of time that you're hoping it accomplishes, or you're hoping that a certain message gets out to fans?
I think it's one of those things where the goal was just to put out the album, right? And then the main goal is just for me to be proud of it, right? Whether it gets 100 streams or 100 million streams, I'll definitely, like me personally, I'll feel the same way about the album. I know that it's a good album, and I know that even if it doesn't get the acknowledgement right away, that it'll last for a long time, right? So that's always what I take pride in as well. It's like, I make things that last, that are timeless, that can be considered classics, right? Even if you listen to it 5 years ago, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, a lot of my music is like, I'm like, All I Want to Do came out 8 years ago. They're like, 8 years ago? Oh my gosh! Like, yeah, it almost came out a decade ago, and people are still playing it. Chaa came out over a decade ago, and people are still playing it. So, I definitely want to make things that last.
And then looking ahead, what else do you want to accomplish? What else, like, in your career, what else do you want to do? Do you want to start a food brand at this point? We wouldn't be surprised. So what else do you want to do?
I mean, in terms of business-wise, I always want my heart to be there. I don't want to do things just for the intent of just purely making income, because then I know my heart's not in it. And so business-wise, we'll see what I get into, because, you never know. But in terms of goals as an artist, I think the album was definitely a big thing. And then next year, I'll be doing my concert and tour for the first time in 6 years. So that's a big thing. And then in terms of my career, I think releasing the K-pop, or debuting the K-pop group the idols that we're producing right now.
That was actually, I wanted to ask you about that, because that was mentioned. And, for someone that's been in the industry for so long, who has done so much, I'm excited to see, the type of group that you were looking to put out. So I know you can't give us a lot away, but like, what going into this, what are some of the things you're thinking about that, my group has to have this, we're going to do it this way? What are you thinking about that?
So, I mean, first of all, I think that just the music has to be good, right? The music has to be good because, and I want it to be very music-based. I think a lot of K-pop, obviously they're all talented, and they're good singers and good dancers, but a lot of the stuff, I think music is just maybe like a part of the experience, and they have the outfits and the costumes and the whole 세계관이 뭐지? They have the whole, what's the 세계? Universe. They have a whole different universe and characters and etc. to kind of have that experience, right? I think for us, music is the main thing, and we'll build upon the music. And so, yeah, our trainees definitely have to have a certain taste, a certain standard when it comes to music and singing and dancing, and definitely a certain mindset and attitude, because it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. So, beyond wanting fame, I want them to really be passionate about their craft, and I want them to take it seriously and professionally. And then I think if you do that, then will come the fame and the acknowledgement and the money and whatever, all the other worldly things that come when you get a lot of notoriety. But yeah, I definitely, we've been in this trainee program for a couple years now, a little less than a couple years, and before, it's my first time doing this too, so it's like I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, okay, let's just play it by ear. And then now I'm very confident in the group of kids that we have, and I now they're kind of like, I feel like I'm their mentor. I feel like they're like my little cousins and brothers and sisters, and so yeah, it's just fun for me. It's fun for me, and I'm very thankful and blessed to get together a team at More Vision, employees and staff that I feel very comfortable with. And then also have a group of kids that I think are like super dope. Like when I hear them sing, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's already better than me. Like I need to hurry up and just, step away and just, hurry up and support these kids. So I'm very excited for people to hear them. And I in all the meetings I go, I brag about them, and I let people listen to their demos. And so I'm glad that I naturally have that feeling to do that.